First couple of years I couldn't make it. Last year was my first year, and I was kind of scratching my head a little bit about why I'm up here presenting, because I am by no way, means, shape, or form an expert in continuous improvement at all. But what I probably have to offer for this group is about 20 years of experience of working in community and kind of really being on the ground of this work. So hopefully I can provide some value for you today. So my disclaimer is that you are not going to hear terms like you just heard Mike say pretty much through any of my presentation. Although we live in that whole world of complex adaptive systems really all the time. So, but you can translate whatever I say into whatever theory makes sense for you. So. We have there we go. Okay. I mentioned that I've been in this work for about 20 years, and over those years we've had a lot of success in community change. Some of the examples I can share with you, effort in an area called Way to the Fox Valley, working to reduce obesity and create healthy eating, active living in our community. Rural Health Initiative takes healthcare to the farm instead of waiting for those folks to come in for care. Voices of Men, helping men to take responsibility for violence against women in our region. Common Ground, which brings faith organizations together to build community and work on health issues together and to put their differences of theology aside. Hidape, which works with the Latino population in the area to reduce Latino teen pregnancy. Foxborough Advanced Care Planning Partnership, helping to bring dignity to end of life, where we brought competing health systems together, End of Life Coalition together to make a difference there. NEW Mental Health Connection, which brings more than 70 different mental health agencies and stakeholders together with a common vision and plan for what they want to focus on in the community. And STAR, which is a program I want to highlight a little bit this morning, which is working to address the black-white graduation rate differential in local schools. But all of these are initiatives, and there's actually many more over the 20 years that we've been able to create and build through the process that we use. So I'm here to share with you a little bit about that process this morning. One thing I did want to point out with these different initiatives is that even though the organization I work for, ThedaCare, we helped create the forum for these to come to be, there is not a one of these initiatives that we own as a whole system. It's really a process. It's very much about community taking ownership and co-creating together. And we think that this is a much more sustainable model over time to keep these initiatives and efforts around long term. So our work is very much about creating the conditions that make it possible for the community to come together around these complex adaptive problems and figure out solutions together. So I wanted to share with you five different success factors that I think are really the key to making this model work for us. And the first is this idea that you can't solve a problem that you don't own. And I did a fellowship in creating healthy communities more than 20 years ago. Monty Roulier's group, he's going to be speaking later this morning, was the faculty for that. But this was probably my biggest takeaway from that whole experience. And our mindset previously had been, we're the big health system in the area, we own health, it's up to us to change it. And we quickly learned through that process that it really is about how we bring community together. So we had to figure out a way to do that. And the way that we chose to do is through a process called CHAT. It stands for Community Health Action Teams. These are teams of community leaders across all different sectors: faith, nonprofit, business, government, healthcare, education, philanthropy in the communities. In each of the communities we have hospitals. We have a CHAT team of people that are helping to guide us in this work, helping us to really have kind of boots on the ground and understand reality in those communities. Success factor number 2 is about how critically important it is to work to create common understanding of the problem opportunity that you have at hand among the folks that are going to be a piece of trying to solve that. And the way that we've chosen to do that in our model is through something called a plunge. And a plunge, in essence, is really a day-long field trip for adults in our community. And we pack a yellow school bus full of 60, 70 community leaders and go out for a day to really see the lived reality, the good, the bad, the ugly that's happening in our community. We take a look at the issues and the problem that we're studying at the moment, but just as importantly, maybe more importantly, we take a look at the assets. What are the assets that we already have in the community that we can build upon to address it? And so this is a photo. I mentioned I was going to share with you a little bit more about the STAR program that we most recently created. We did about 2 years ago a plunge on what it's like to be black living in this predominantly white community. And look at this room. This was one of our stops in that day, trying to create common understanding of the challenges that African American and black people in our community face every day that most of us are entirely oblivious to. But here, half of our group is stopping at this point at King's Barber Shop, right down College Avenue here, and the owner was sharing with us his challenges living in this community just as a black citizen in this community, but also as a business owner, where he doesn't have the kind of network that a traditional white male leader in this community would just automatically have at his disposal, and the challenges that he faces in trying to run his business. But the Plunge Day is filled with those kinds of experiences to help us really, see reality. So as we got started developing this plunge, we've done more than 20 different plunges in the Fox cities over these 20 years or so. But as we started to plan this plunge, what we very quickly realized is that this would be an entire fail if me, this middle-aged white female working out of Medicare, was going to organize this day. It took us about 6 to 8 months of really developing a relationship with the African American community, because we really didn't have it. We didn't have a real relationship with that community, and building the trust to be able to even get to the point of putting on a day like this. And we really took the cue for this day from the African American community to put this day together, and we were their staff to make this day happen. But you can see, I mean, these are samples of the different things that we've covered throughout the day. Just basics of racism. We talked about lived experience and had many people sharing what it's like to walk down College Avenue at bar time on a Friday night, the things that are yelled out of cars, and stuff that most of us in this room have no idea is happening. We learned about this community and its history being a sundown town. It wasn't that long ago that black people could not even stay overnight in this community. We had soul food for lunch. We learned about education, the education graduation gap. I mentioned the black-owned businesses. We learned about the prison industrial complex and criminal justice system. We went to one of the churches downtown that is, for the most part, a black church downtown, and the pastor at that church works with the prison, folks coming out of prison, helping them to reassimilate into the community, many of whom are black. But incredibly, incredibly powerful day. And the plunge process, I mean, this is kind of under the category of creating common understanding, but there's so many other benefits for doing this sort of model to create understanding. Stereotypes just sort of melt away for folks coming into the plunge. You get passionate about what you're learning about your community, you want to change. But one of the greatest benefits of the day is this idea of social capital. And connectedness of our community, and really building an infrastructure that is going to be capable to solve its own problems because of these connections. And I think I've heard of the definition of a healthy community being a community that can solve its own problems. That is truly a healthy community. And through this process, on the course of that school bus a day, we might have the CEO of the health system sitting with the person who runs the abuse shelter, or the mayor sitting with somebody with lived experience of the problem, or a local pastor maybe with a bank executive or so. I mean, connections that might not ever be made otherwise in the community. And that sense of trust and reciprocity and the ability to even reach out and make a phone call if you need to make a phone call starts to happen. And for those of you in the room that are from the Fox Cities area, I think we all think of this as a pretty special place to live. And you can go 30 miles any one direction, and it's not like this elsewhere. The kind of collaboration that happens here. And I will say that by doing this, for about 20 years in this community, I feel in my heart of hearts that it has had some impact on that sense of collaboration in this community because of that building that's happened over time. Third key success factor is pretty soon after that Plunge day, coming together to figure out, like, defining a direction, a result you want to have, and a course of action. We do a debriefing about a week or two later. We bring all those folks that were on that school bus for the day across all these different sectors of our community together in a room. And the richness, when you have people, you know, oftentimes it's the nonprofits who are in the room, right? For all of this work, it's health systems, it's nonprofits, it's public health, you know. But when you all of a sudden you bring business and government and philanthropy and faith leaders to the table, and folks who don't look at the problem the same way you do, the richness of possibility is entirely endless. And you think about all those resources in that room, if they come to bear on what you're trying to do, honestly, you know, it's a truly amazing, amazing potential. So coming out of that Plunge on what it's like to be Black, you know, we had really quickly defined that we were going to start to work on the graduation differential between Black and white students. We knew that white students were graduating at a rate somewhere in the low 60s, or the high 90% or close to 95% or so. African American students in our community were somewhere in the low 60s. Fourth key to success is providing that infrastructure that's really needed to make that co-creation process come to finality. You know, getting from that idea to an end state of a real initiative that can take place in the community. This is where I think a lot of communities start to fall down, because more often than not, it's a bunch of do-gooder volunteer people in a room trying to make something happen for their community. And oftentimes, you know, just the weight of all the work and other responsibilities is too heavy, and it's hard to really keep something going. This is where, you know, this is my job, honestly. You know, I'm being paid, and my staff is being paid to be in that role, to be that sort of backbone, to help take that idea to reality. So having some kind of a source that can be in that kind of position to kind of just dog it and to keep those meetings happening over time. You know, so we're the ones, we get that initial set of stakeholders from the Plunge day, we figure out who else needs to be in the room, we set the meetings, we provide facilitation, we do communication, all of that. You know, and 90% I think of making it come to be is all about persistence. You know, you got to get past those meetings where only 2 people out of 10 show up, and you know, but you keep going and keep going. With the graduation differential work, we had about 30 different folks then from colleges, local high schools, government, law enforcement, and others that met for over a year. We marshaled this process for over a year. We let the African American population lead it. We were their support in this work to come to a model that is the STAR program today that we borrowed actually from Northfield, Minnesota, and some work that was happening there. We took about 15 people over there to take a look at it and kind of did a separate little plunge in that process. So once you get that great idea, you know what you want to do in the community. The final key success factor, I think, for us is the idea of being able to put some money on the table, because money really does talk. And for us, we had this great idea. My organization was able to put $50,000 a year for 3 years down on the table, and it says basically to the other funders and the rest of the community, we believe in this, we think this can work. And then the Community Foundation and Thrivent and the Boys and Girls Club and many other organizations came together and wanted to be part of that. And very shortly, in a shorter order of time, we've raised $500,000 budget a year for 3 years to get this initiative off the ground. So the STAR program itself, there's a great video on it. If anybody wants to take a look at it, happy to share that. Don't have the time to share that with you now. But the STAR program, for all intents and purposes, puts people of color, adults, in the lives of these African American youth, so they can kind of see themselves in successful adults in their school. So we have 9 schools. STAR program now is in 9 schools, all the Appleton High Schools, middle schools, and Menasha High School in middle school. This was its first full year of operation. And these adults, we call them opportunity coordinators, are in meeting every single day with multiple Black youth, helping them overcome whatever challenges they're facing. It can be academic, it could be family, it could be, you know, they don't have transportation, whatever it is, they're going to find a way to help that kid be successful. And just some quick outcomes here. I mentioned this is the first year of the STAR program. We got the graduation rate up to, I mentioned it was in the low 60s for African American population. We got up to 86% just in that first year alone. And going from semester 1 to semester 2, of those kids, so of the kids that were not on track with credits to graduate, and we had 40% improvement in GPA, 40% improvement in credit accrual, 24% of the students who were failing at least one course were now passing all, 62% improvement in attendance, 68% improvement in classroom behavior. But I think even more important than that are the surveys of the students themselves. So we had 377 youth in the program this first year, and of 302 students completed just a survey on it. But I think these numbers are incredible. You know, if you think about what it takes for a kid to be successful in school, any kid to be successful in school, having adults that care about you, having somebody in your life, you know, that, you know, feeling connected. At least one positive adult, so 97% of them said they did. 100% said their opportunity coordinator cared about them. They're performing better in their classes. Know healthy ways to deal with challenges. I mean, incredible results. And my surprise guest here today is one of the people that's making all this great stuff happen. And, you know, as we get out to talk about this work, again, in the spirit of, you know, us white folks not taking the credit for this work, this is the work of the African American leaders in our community. We're just a proud partner to help them make it come to be. But Laura Jones is one of these great opportunity coordinators. I just asked her to come this morning to share with you a little bit about a story of what she's doing in school. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. It's first of all an honor to be here. Again, my name is Laura Jones. I'm from Chicago, born and raised, went to St. Norbert College, graduated, and then I started working with the STAR program, currently in grad school at La Crosse Online for Student Affairs Administration, as well as an internship here at Lawrence in the Diversity and Intercultural Department. So in addition to all that, again, I do work with the STAR program, and the story I want to share with you today, and in fact doesn't start with me or the student, it starts with the teacher. And I do rounds in the school every once in a while when I have the time to. And I was doing a round and the teacher stopped me in the middle of her classroom and said, hey, I have one of your students in here. His name is Eric. Let's say his name is Eric for the sake of purposes of telling this story. Eric's head has been down the past few weeks, not engaged, not participating, doesn't want to help others like he used to. Can you talk to him? I said, okay, I'll see what I can do. I took Eric back to the office. We had a conversation. And it goes a little bit something like this. He says, Miss Laura, am I in trouble? I said, no, I just want to check in. I said, well, how are you doing today? I'm all right. Well, is everything going on all right at home? To be honest, Miss Laura, my mom and dad has been arguing for the past 3 weeks. I can't focus on school. I'm so worried that they're going to get a divorce and break up. Boom, there you have it. The student was struggling at home. It wasn't the interest in school. It wasn't that he didn't like the teacher. It was the home life that took place. So what I did as the opportunity coordinator and what our role is to give the students tools that they need to be successful in school. So one, I told them anytime there's a problem, feel free to connect with your teacher or ask, hey, can I go talk to an adult in the classroom or in the school that I can relate to? They'll be more than happy to let you do that. Then I said, what would your parent like you to do in this moment? Well, I know my mom would want me to turn in my homework. And I said, have you been doing that? No, and she'll be disappointed. And I said, okay, so what you gotta do? Well, I'm gonna make up all my assignments. Okay, that's the plan. And he committed to that plan, right? Then he says, well, I also want to finish up with my peers in the classroom. I said, okay, I'm cool with that. So about a week later, I followed up with the teacher, and she said, I don't know what conversation you had with that child, but he is back to normal. And I said, I'm okay with that. You know, why? Because one, I made the connection. Two, and this is why it's one of my favorite success stories, is because she reached out to me. And that's all it takes. It takes a teacher to notice the child, right? And not just ignore him. She reached out to me, she talked to me about what she noticed and knowing the difference in his actions. And then also she reached out to me and let me know she was concerned. That's one reason why this is one of my favorite success stories. Two, I was able to give him the tools he needed. And three, lastly, the scholar was able to pass the class with a B. Whereas before he was failing because he wasn't participating, turning in his work. And so to me, that's one of my favorite success stories because we all work together to make sure that this scholar was successful. So thank you.